One thing I'd like to talk to you about is anxiety. It's the number one thing I tend to treat and see in my practice. We live in this hyper-competitive world, and in the La Miranda community where I work, it's also a kind of hyper-competitive community within the larger world. Those pressures create a lot of stress and worry for a lot of people. Now, anxiety is not a bad thing. If you don't have any anxiety, then you're not going to engage in something in a meaningful way. Low to moderate level of anxiety kind of lends itself to putting you in the mode of peak performance. And then too much anxiety, well, that's not good for you either, because that's where the fight, flight, or freeze kicks in. And you can become paralyzed by fear at whatever task is in front of you. You can try and fight what's in front of you, which isn't going to really work out for anybody, or you can take off running, and that's not going to get the job done either. So in my work with people with anxiety, I use a lot of mindfulness-based approaches. And what that means is I just help people become aware of the interoceptive cues that are taking place along the way as their anxiety level starts to rise. And they need to figure out ways to kind of get off that thought train that can hijack them from a task they're trying to accomplish. Some specific coping skills that I tend to like to use, just to share a couple tips and tricks with you real quick. One would be basic orienting exercises, using our five senses to detangle ourselves from these anxious thoughts, these catastrophic fears we're having that haven't even taken place yet, but our body's responding as though it actually has happened, and your heart rate is pumping, and your blood pressure is going up, and you just become overwhelmed. Five senses orienting exercise would be something as simple as looking around the room, naming 5 objects that you see, maybe pausing for a moment, trying to name 3 sounds that you can hear, touching a couple things in the room, describing what they feel like. It might be rough, or cool, or warm, and using our sense of smell as well, maybe smelling something, just to kind of bring us back to the moment, reorient ourselves to what's around us, and coexist with those thoughts in a different kind of way. Anxiety is a tricky thing. It often we future trip. We think of these worst case scenarios, and we lose touch with the moment. So any way we can find, any skill we can use, any tool we can use to bring us back, to be able to be in contact with the present moment in a different kind of way and coexist with those feeling states and thoughts can be incredibly useful. And a lot of it's common sense, but when we become overwhelmed with fear, a lot of those, we're just not thinking of, we know what to do, but we don't do what we know. And so I'm someone who can be a coach to help people kind of find ways to remember what to do in times of distress. I think there are proactive coping skills and emotion-focused coping skills. Proactive coping skills would be things you do every day, whether or not you're feeling anxious, so that your body's primed for a potentially anxiety-provoking event. And then emotion-focused coping skills are what you do when that anxiety wave starts to really surface.